Hey guys, welcome back to Community Starcraft 2. I am the host, my name is Magnet, and we are going to be learning about standard PvZ openers today, so we shall get right on it. Basically, we're going to be covering two builds in most of these build order tutorials or openers or whatever. And what we're going to be covering today is a typical Forge expand and a typical Gateway expand, excuse me. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the game, and I'll explain what's going on as we go. So I'm just going to create a custom game. And you guys can do this just to practice your build order, but I'm just doing this just to demonstrate, and we're not going to see everything that we want to see. I will review the replay so that we can talk about different changes to the build that you can make based upon what you scout. So PvZ, let's change the color so it's easier to look at in the replay. And I'll just run the build as I normally would, and then I'll explain what's going on both during it, and we'll talk about different transitions during the replay. I like the new portrait they have in Heart of the Swarm for the AI. It used to just be like this weird circle thing. So what you want to do with every opener, once again, is you do want to just start your workers as soon as possible, and you don't want to stop them unless you know why. We're only going to stop workers at one point in this build, and I'll show you where. We always do want to make a pylon on 9, but we're going to be making it down on the low ground to help wall off our natural expand area. So I'll show you guys how to do that. We're going to pull a worker as soon as the 9th one, as soon as you're at 9 supply and they come out. You're going to pull a worker and you're going to send it down here so that you can time it out. Your pylon should be pretty much on time. You're going to put a pylon down here so you can start building walls to wall off this area, and that's going to be the whole point of this build. We're going to wall this off, and we're going to use cannons in order to keep us safe. Once this, and you do want to send him out to scout. I don't remember if I mentioned that already, but yeah, send him out as soon as he builds the pylon, because you need to know different timings of his spawning pool. So what I'm going to do here is on 12 supply, I'm going to send this worker down to build my forge. And once this is done, the chrono boost wears off. You're going to go ahead and chrono boost again. You want to see what's going on here in the base. If you see a pool that's about halfway done or is most of the way done by now, then you really need to be careful and you really need to change this build, but we'll talk about that in the replay. So the pool has just started. It's about 2 minutes. There's no big thing to worry about, and we'll cover all the intimate timings in the replay once again. But I did put my forge down on about 13. I sent him back to work, and I did chrono boost once again as soon as we have it available. So we're going to have just a probe sitting here. You just want him to see if the base goes down, and he should be able to do that pretty much uncontested. Now once we're at 17 supply, just rally this worker down to the natural so that we can build the Nexus on time. You can only do this Nexus building if his pool was not super early, and we'll talk about that once again. So Nexus, we're going to stay on 17 supply. I'm going to stop probes for a little while so that we can get everything up that needs to get up on time. We do need to prioritize the cannon so that we don't die. So the cannon's going to go down first on 17 supply. As soon as you have the minerals, you're going to put down your gateway. Then right after that, as soon as you have the minerals, you're going to put down your pylon. We'll send him back to work. We're going to make another probe to put us at 18. Then this is the part where you want to take double gas. So you can do it with the probe that's coming back too. Hotkey bolt Nexus. Our pylon is finishing up, which means that we're not going to be supply blocked anymore, so you're going to chrono boost probes. You want to be pretty liberal at this point about chrono boosting probes. And in the meantime, we're just going to pretend that he took a base and go hide this worker. Once these gases finish, you want to get those all set up. Send one down as soon as you fill your gases because your core is going to be about due by then. Again, chrono boost pretty liberally. Let me go ahead and make the core. And you do want to transfer workers down to your new base once it's done. I also want you to build this guy on the outside, just so that if you need a scout, you can do that. And I am opting to full wall here, so you can see nothing can get through this wall. Keep making probes. We're going to re-scout once again. It's about 5 minutes. You want to check out for scouts again. And we'll talk about scouting in the replay so that you can process this all in a timely order. We're only going to go until about this core finishes. I'll show you guys one last little thing once the core is done. just about different hex and transitions that you can do. The first thing that's really safe to do is just go ahead and start warp gate and +1 weapons. And then you're going to have the money available to make pretty much whatever tech you want. So if you want to put down a Stargate, you just have to wait for the extra gas, and bam, there you go. Okay, cool. So just to review the supplies in the build order really quickly, the first pylon, you pulled the guy on 9 to send him down here to build that, and you sent him out to scout. The forge went down on about 13. The Nexus was on 17, 17 cannon, 17 gateway, 17 pylon, and then we made a probe. Then we took double gas in our main on 18 supply, and then we just continued to build things as they needed to be built. So as soon as the gateway was done, we built a core. As soon as that was done, we started warp gate and +1 ground weapons. As soon as we had 150 gas, we made a Stargate. But most importantly, we also did not stop workers from both of our Nexuses throughout the course of this opener. So that's the build order for the Forge opener, but we do need to talk about different scouting reads and reactions that you need to make if that does not go ideally. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the replay so that we can assure that we understand what's going on. Alright, cool. Just checking the stream, making sure we're good. Okay, cool. So, again, we've already been over this. There's not much more to talk about within the opener. One little timing trick that I like to do is, I mentioned it for a little bit, but I think I kind of derped when I was explaining it. So we're at 8 supply right now. We're going to put a 9th one in queue as soon as we have the money. There it goes. And as soon as this worker is done, and as soon as it puts us at 9 supply, basically the next guy that returns minerals is going to be the one that I like to pull, because it gets me to my wall almost at the exact time that my pylon is supposed to go down. So I'll pull a worker, he'll head down here and he'll build a pylon as soon as he gets there. We'll cover different walling techniques based upon the map in another video, but basically the general idea is that you want to wall all this off as much as you can so that Zerglings and Roaches can't just run in, and so that your cannons can do a whole lot of work behind the wall without being attacked. So 100 minerals, our worker gets there, we put a pylon down, and we're going to send this guy out to scout immediately. Now you'll notice my hotkey scheme right now. 1 is my Nexus, 2 is my pylon. I do hotkey this so I can get back and forth, and 3 is my probe. So you want to hotkey this so that you can jump back and forth as far as your vision, so you understand everything that's going on. Again, once the pylon is done, you want to chrono boost your workers. There we go. We're going to talk about pool timings once he gets there. Another little trick that I like to do is I like to rally this worker down, the 12th worker, down to my wall, so he gets there about when that's due, and I don't have to worry about, controlling 2 workers at the same time. So, okay, our worker is showing up in his base. What you're going to want to do when he gets here is you're going to want to walk all around his base and see what he has so far. You want to check on the timing of his spawning pool. So when he gets there, you want to be like, okay, it's about 1:45. If he has a spawning pool that's most of the way done by this point, then you can't make the Nexus or else you're going to die. You want to actually make a pylon here, continue making workers up until about 15 or 16, and then put a cannon down in your mineral line. What he's going to be doing is he's going to be rushing you with Zerglings, and your best way to hold is to have a cannon that just protects some buildings in here that you can build while also protecting your mineral line. And yes, you're going to lose buildings down here, but if you try to wall down here with cannons and gateways and whatever, his Zerglings will be there and inside your base before you can get that done. So that's just not ideal. So once he gets down here, you're going to want to build a forge as soon as you realize what's going on. The second pool timing that could be done is by this point, or maybe about the point that you scout. Let's say his pool is about halfway done. The only adjustment that you need to make is you need to make a cannon before you make the Nexus, so that the cannon finishes first, rather than being too late and getting killed by Zerglings if it's still building. If you built your Nexus first. So okay, forge goes down. We're going to continue our workers here. I see his pool timing. This isn't too alarming. If it's about this progress at maybe 2:05 or whatever, the timing that they can get a spawning pool down normally is about 1:45, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if it's just going down when you first get there, then there's nothing to worry about. You can proceed as normal. Okay, and with this worker, I'm going to send him down here, and I want to see if he's going to take another base. I just put him on patrol by habit. That's going to be to block him, but if you don't have the APM to block him, just sit him right here so that you can just see if a base goes down. Okay, cool. So 17th supply. We're going to rally our worker down here so that he can build our Nexus on time. Our forge is done. So we're all nice and good, and this is only assuming that the pool timing is normal. So again, if you're having trouble with early pools or whatever, you can just re-watch this video and take notes of the things that I'm talking about, because this is how they deal with it at pro levels and everything else too. So okay, our Nexus is down on 17. We should have 150 minerals really soon. We're going to build our cannon first. And you want to build your cannon in a way that it covers the entire wall from being hit by Zerglings. So you don't want Zerglings just to poke this down, otherwise that defeats the purpose of this opener. Okay, by now, we're going to build a gateway and then we're going to build a pylon. As soon as we have the money. So we just sit here and wait. Okay. So once we have this pylon down, you're going to send this guy back to work. He's going to be the guy that's going to make double gas. But also you want to check to see if he took this base. If he did, then you don't need to worry too much, and you're just going to want to take this probe and hide him somewhere on the map. Like right here, here, wherever you think he might not scout you. The reasoning is because you need to do a follow-up scout later. Now, if he has not taken this base by this point, you have your gateway and your pylon down, he might just be one-basing you. So you need to get your gases, and then you need to probably add another cannon and get a sentry up as soon as possible. You're just going to be protecting from all-ins and cheeses at this point, so you want to definitely watch out for that. So we're just playing assuming that he has this base, even though he doesn't. So let's just pretend that he has this base. I'm going to move that worker away so that we can hide and go scout later. Alright, 18 supply, we're taking double gas, and you can do it with the worker that's already off the line. And then send him back to work once he's done. Our pylon finishes up so we can start chrono boosting probes again. Again, we're just going to pretend that this guy is hidden. There's not a whole lot to do at this point other than remember that as soon as you fill up your geysers is when you need to start worrying about taking your cybernetics core, and you want that done as soon as your gateway is done. And we did just move our scout away, so yeah, whatever. Continuing on here, we're going to do one last little bit of alterations that we might need to make based upon what the Zerg is doing. And again, I like to build my probe on the outside, so let's say this probe gets killed. I absolutely need scouting information at this stage of the game, so I can send him out if my other probe died. So we're going to transfer workers, we're going to keep making workers. Our core is down, so this is about the time, maybe around 5 minutes, where you want to do a follow-up scout with this guy that should still be out on the map. You want to see if he has a third base. If he does have a third base, then you can do exactly what I did. Don't worry about anything, you can go ahead and make a Stargate, you can do whatever tech you want. Now in this case, he does not have a third base, which of course, because he's just a bad computer, he's not going to be doing anything special. So assuming that he has a third base, you can follow this up, you can get Warp Gate, you can get +1 weapons, you can get that Stargate, or whatever you want on time. If he does not have a third base by this point, you want to get a sentry out as soon as possible, and add a couple cannons. If you have the APM for it, you also want to put one of your probes on patrol around your base to be watching out for a Nidus. So yeah, that's pretty much all the different adjustments that you can make for this opener. And again, if you're having trouble with any of these reactions, you can rewatch this video so that you understand everything that needs to be changed based upon the opener. So yeah, just to recap really quickly, if you're ever thinking that he's going to be aggressive based upon his lack of bases, or if he has an early pool, long story short, just get a couple of extra cannons and get a sentry out as soon as possible so that you can protect your wall and hold it with some decent, damage output. Okay, cool. So that covers Forge Expand. We're going to go ahead and jump into Gateway Expanding now. Let me make sure we're good. Alright, cool. So again, we're going to do custom games. Get rid of my pen. I don't know why I'm holding it. We'll do the same map for the sake of consistency. And add an AI. And again, this AI isn't going to do anything. It's just for the sake of it being there. Our build doesn't matter. Go ahead and hit start. So the overall idea behind this build is just to open up with a gateway rather than a forge. It's going to be a little bit different, so we're going to be a little more reliant on units in the early game rather than cannons and buildings. But this is a little more flexible, and it's definitely a good opener to use if you don't like Forge Expand openers. What I want you to make particular note of is that you want to stick with one of these two openers. You don't want to switch back and forth all the time, because the more you learn about an opener, the easier it's going to be to run it forever and ever and ever. And these are two openers that are just never going to go away. So again, we're going to continue to make workers here. We're going to make our pylon on 9, but instead of making it on the low ground here, we're going to make it in the main base. We're going to be putting our gateway and stuff in the main base just in case we get attacked early. We'll be able to protect all of our buildings. Okay, 100 minerals, he's got it. Actually, we're going to send him out to scout, so we'll go ahead and do that. And remember to keep making probes. Don't let that nexus sit idle, that's really bad. There's not too much you need to change in this opener if they're doing some sort of rush or something like that. So we're not going to worry too much about that, but we'll cover any adjustments that might need to be made in the replay. So probe coming up here. We're going to do a double chrono once again, and it's actually too early to rally him over there. So on 13, you can make sure that he rallies out of your nexus toward one of your pylons so that you can get that built, get your gateway built as soon as possible. And you still do want to scout for the timing of the pool here. So we have a gateway on 14. Worker's still scouting. He sees a pool at a pretty normal time, so no big deal. We're just going to watch for a natural. We're going to take our gases just a little bit later than you normally would in a lot of builds, only because we actually do want the minerals and we do want to time out the gas as soon as the best we can. So here, when you're on about 17 supplies, when you're going to take both of your gases, so 17, take both gases, and take a pylon as well. And then, as soon as we have 150 minerals and our gateway finishes, we're going to go ahead and take a cybernetics core. Once those gases are done, go ahead and fill them up. You can chrono boost workers at this point, or you can chrono boost your zealot if you're being attacked or anything like that. We're getting up to the point where we need another pylon, so we'll worry about that after this worker. So 23 supply, we're going to go ahead and grab another pylon. There we go. We're going to prioritize our mothership core here because she's a lot more important in order to make this expand actually work. So once your core is done, go ahead and get your mothership core out. You can chrono booster if you want, get warp gate. And just to be super safe, we're going to get a second zealot. Keeping this probe out on the map isn't as important in a gateway expand opener, but yeah. Okay, so we have the mothership core and the zealot out. Go ahead and send them forward. They're going to just be there to kind of buy time and fight off Zerglings that might be coming at this stage of the game. The mothership core in particular, put her pretty far forward, like out in front of your natural quite a ways, because she can see really far, and she can attack any units they might have by this point without taking any damage. So, we're going to stop probes at this point. We're going to go ahead and make a nexus. We're going to make a pylon as soon as we have the money, and this is just going to be to, again, rebuild kind of like a wall here. This is just going to be to control space a little better, and you can resume probes once that's done. You can keep this probe here if you want, it doesn't matter too much. We're going to get 2 sentries so that we can at least force field if we do get into some trouble. And while this is going up, we're going to go ahead and make a couple more gateways and a forge. Again, be sure to stay on top of your probes here. It can be a little bit easy to get distracted, but the probes are the most important part. They're what make anything happen. We're going to be stockpiling quite a bit of gas here, which you can spend on extra sentries if you want, but this is kind of the point where the build starts to diverge, because you need to start making decisions based upon what you're comfortable with. Actually, we don't need that pylon quite yet. There we go. Okay, and once again, once this thing finishes, you can go ahead and send some workers down here so that they mine as soon as possible. We do have a lot of chrono boost saved up, but we haven't really been safe to spend it quite yet, because we do need to worry about spending money on gateways so we can get our stuff walled off in time. Okay, so by this point our nexus is done. If you get into trouble, you can go ahead and throw the nexus cannon down on there. The gateway, or rather the forge, is now done. You probably want to start +1 weapons as soon as possible, since you're going to be a little more reliant on gateway units in this. And this is about the time where you can start adding more sentries. You can get extra tech if you want. You can throw down a Stargate. Whatever you're comfortable with. The build is kind of in your hands at this point. But the point is that we got an expansion up, and we have a lot of units just in case we do get attacked. So we're going to go ahead and stop here. We'll jump into the replay since this has gone pretty decently well. We'll check up on that and make sure that we're going all correctly. And the stream still is good. So we're going to review the replay really quickly, and I'll just tell you guys a little bit about the adjustments that you can make here, but this build is pretty universal. There's not too much to worry about as far as changing in this one, at least not nearly as much as in the Forge one. In the Forge one. The Forge Expand Opener, I should be a little more specific. Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and start up our probes once again. You want to make sure all your hotkeys are comfortable, so hotkey your Nexus, all that good stuff. We'll rally our probes down here. And again, on 9 supplies when you want your first pylon, so go ahead and build that and send this guy out to scout, because you need to adjust just a little bit if he has an earlier timing. An earlier pool timing, that is. Okay, once your pylon's done, chrono boost your workers. And again, hotkey your worker to something so you can jump back and forth between these two pretty easily. The only two real spots on the map that you need to be paying attention to are wherever your probe is and wherever your Nexus is. So okay, one adjustment you can make is that if you do see a pool that's basically done by now, you can actually make a forge right here if you're not too comfortable about microing everything. So if you make a forge here, and then you make a cannon in your mineral line, then you can go ahead and make a gateway and expand that way. That'll assure that you're going to take basically no damage whatsoever. So that's one option. The other option is that if you see a pool by now, you can throw your gateway down, but you do need to chrono boost out zealots, and chrono boost them pretty hard and be able to micro them so that you don't lose them to Zerglings or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and put this out. We're going to opt for a gateway since I did not see any early pool or anything. Now the pool is just starting by this point, so there's a couple of other adjustments that you probably want to make. Just like the Forge Opener, if it's already done, you do need to take countermeasures against very early Zerglings, and I would recommend a Forge and a Cannon. That's pretty much the easiest way to do it. If the pool is about halfway done by this point, you're still going to want to chrono boost a Zealot out, but it's not going to be as urgent as if the pool was a lot earlier. If the pool is just starting at about this time, then there's not too much to worry about. You can play however you want, just basically the way that we lined out here before. So okay, cool. We're continuing to make workers. As soon as we have the chrono boost energy, we're not going to spend it this time just like we did in the Forge Opener. We're just going to worry about taking gases. So 17, take both of your gases. And a pylon, so we don't get supply blocked. 18, we're going to go ahead and take this core. Now, I should say something about if they don't take a natural, but I want you guys to practice holding stuff off even if they don't take a natural. So, at this point, scouting isn't terribly important from this worker, but it is a decent idea to at least know your comfort level if they've taken an expansion here or not. If they haven't, you need to be a lot more on guard and understand, so there might be something coming across the map, but if they did, you don't need to worry too much. Okay, cool. We're going to go ahead and mine gas once that's done. Chrono boost our workers, or you can chrono boost the Zealot, whatever you're more comfortable with. We're going to make the Zealot come out so that we have some defenses in case he does just make Zerglings at this normal time and send him in. The Zealot will do really well at pushing them away. We're going to take another pylon on about 23, so there that goes. And again, once the core finishes, an instinct that you might have is just to start Warp Gate right away, but your Mothership Core is a lot more important. So start your Mothership Core, chrono boost her out because she's the most important part of this opener. And then once you get 100 minerals and this pylon finishes, start your second Zealot. By this point, if you're, I would say if he doesn't have a natural at this point, you probably don't want to send your Zealots down here, just have your Zealots here and here, and then keep your Mothership Core way out here so that you can get a good understanding of what's going on. I would say if they don't have a natural right here as well, don't be so gung-ho about getting your Nexus right away. Put out a sentry instead so that you have 2 Zealots and a sentry here. You can force field the ramp and let the Mothership Core kill off a whole bunch of stuff and you won't take any damage. So that's another adjustment that you can throw in there, but gateway expands are a lot more free-flowing. They're a lot more about what you're comfortable with. If you want to just make a blind sentry here before your Nexus, you can do that too. But I'm going to stop probes for just a minute so I can get the Nexus down. Because, I mean, that's the whole point of an expand, is being able to get that economy up as soon as possible. So again, I do want to make a pylon to start help controlling space right here. You want to limit it down to just a tiny little choke, maybe 1 or 2 units standing right here on hold position, so that they don't just barge in and knock down all your stuff unexpectedly. Okay, so we're going to keep going. You do want to make a couple of sentries at least on a gateway opener, just so that you have the ability to force field, and then you can use those sentries for hallucination scouting later. So you can make like a Phoenix or whatever and send it in and see what's going on. So we're going to make the 2 gateways. It's putting up us at a total of 3 and a forge. The forge is there both for cannons and for the attack upgrades. Attack upgrades are really important if you do open a gateway expand, because you do want to get those just in case you want to pressure at some point. Alright, cool. And I'll show you guys one other option. This is all pretty straightforward stuff right now, but I'll show you one other option that you can do. By this point you should have a whole bunch of gas. You usually do want to spend those on sentries, so you want like 3 or 4 sentries if you run a gateway opener. You can also just save your minerals a little bit and put down a Stargate instead and start teching into whatever else you want. But if you want a Stargate, I'd say you probably want that earlier, like when you're supposed to build your first sentry. Instead of building your first sentry, you want a Stargate instead. But you can play that however you want. I'm just playing a really normal style. Now by this point, if you can help it, if your probe is still out here, check around for a third base. If he has a third base, I would put up like 2 or 3 more gateways, and I would just get up on him and start trying to put some pressure on him, which is definitely what these gateway expands allow. The Zerg should not be able to just get a third up uncontested. So if you have good force field control, if you have the attack upgrade, etc., you can add a couple of gateways and get up in their face if they're trying to take a third base this early. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, you can continue to warp in sentries here. You could just make sure you're spending your money and make sure you're keeping up your probes. So by this point in the game, I have about 32 probes. If you run this opener, you can measure that against mine. 720, 32 probes. So yeah, I just want to give you guys an idea of the 2 different openers that are really common in this matchup. Hopefully this answered some questions, and of course I will always cover more details in later videos regarding scouting, regarding building positioning and stuff like that, so look out for that. But if you have any questions regarding these openers, definitely feel free to leave them and I will do my best to answer them. Or like usual, if I get a lot of the same question, I'll just post a new video answering that specifically. Also, if you guys have Twitch, or if you follow anybody on Twitch, go ahead and check out my stream. It's listed in the bottom right, twitch.tv/magnetsc2. I do stream my ladder games and tournament broadcasts and stuff like that, so go ahead and check that out. Yeah, but I'll see you guys later. Hopefully the next video in this series should be regarding different openers, so look out for that. Take it easy.